Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education for Wednesday, December 3rd, 2014, at 6 p.m. Has this meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Please call the roll.
Dino?
Here.
Eliason?
Here.
Garnet? Here. Herzog? Here. Lumberger?
Here.
Sagamore? Wiedenhoff?
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. This evening we're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by two students from Oakland Elementary, Miles Woodman and Viana Dow. Please step forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for coming to see me. And as a token of our appreciation, I'd like to present you with these certificates of appreciation. You are free to stay and watch the rest of the meeting if you like. However, we know that these can be very long and tedious, so if you would like to go home and enjoy the rest of the meeting, you're free to do that as well. Thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
And I'm going to defer, as usual, to our two student representatives to begin their report.
Okay, give me just a second then. I believe we'll go with Les first, since that's the one I'm going to have up first. So
Okay.
switch things up.
All right, thank you. Okay, so here's the student report for December for Oshkosh West. To start off, we've got one of our big events with student government. It's Breakfast with Santa. It's occurring Saturday, December 13th, 8 a.m. It's starting. We start serving food, and it goes till 10 a.m. It's going to be entered through the gym lobby, door 24F. And why should you come? Well, this is a large family fun experience where we get Santa there, and there's a lot of different performances, crafts, games that you get to play. Really enjoyable stuff, and we've had a lot of hard work being put into this. So it's all ready to go, and it's just a whole lot of fun. It costs $8 for adults, $5 for kids, and kids up to 3rd grade. So register now. December 4th is the deadline. Just send a complete form and payment, and you can see the link there, or just go to the Oshkosh West High School page. Your laughter will participate in a morning fun filled with laughter and holiday spirit. So like I said, there's a lot of different performances going on, games and crafts. And we had Jacob Landgraf, which is our committee chairman for this, put everything together with many different subcommittees to get the supplies together, to schedule the performances. And it's a lot of participation for everybody is highly encouraged, so make sure to go to that. The athletics, we have home game at 7 p.m. Thursday, which is hockey at the YMCA. 7:15 p.m. Friday, varsity boys basketball. 10:30 a.m. Saturday varsity boys swim meet. And one thing that I found very useful was checking out our calendar online. You can check that out to see many different games, JV exhibition. It's really useful, so make sure to check that out. Also, our marching band has completed the Oshkosh Parade as well as the Appleton Parade. So we participated in the Oshkosh Parade, and we are honored to represent the only Oshkosh band in the Appleton Parade. Now, the Appleton Parade has tens of thousands viewed in person, and annually attracts around 50,000 people just in Appleton, with 100,000 plus views on TV. So I've got pictures up there, and if you would like, we can watch a little bit of the video. That's from last year, but it still has the same elements of this year. I mean, so I don't know if we want to see it.
And it was warmer last year, too.
Yes, yes.
How long is your...
we can just 10 seconds.
Okay, yeah, that sounds fun. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's the twirl team for you. we take great pride in our lines. So, yeah, all right. Thank you very much. All right. So, also,
Is it gonna go or accent? Nice. Oh, see? Accent.
just present.
Now let's see how well I do that.
Perfect.
There we go.
All right, so we also have the musical coming up. The performance dates are January 23rd through the 25th. We're going to be putting on a production of Cinderella, and this includes a great set with Pick Orchestra that practices have already started as well, and many practices in December for the January production. Now this is a newly written edition that includes large dance numbers with a plethora of duets, so you've got a lot of involvement on the stage, and I know that the stage will be set up to make it look really, really cool, so that's something to look forward to. We're also putting on a staff breakfast. The student government will host a breakfast, thanking the staff for all they do. We speak on behalf of all the students and really thanking the teachers. And we invited Madrigals to do a performance for them, and it will be located in the library with a buffet-style service. And no, there won't be a Santa present, but that's okay. Upcoming performances, we've got the West Holiday Extravaganza concert. Now that's going to be at 2 p.m. on December 21st. That features choir, band, orchestra, and more. So we got different pictures up there of the bands, orchestras, and choir. And yeah, it's really cool because you have all these people together. The auditorium is just packed. I'd highly suggest going to that one because it's one of our bigger events for our music department. This Friday we have 8th grade band day, which is really awesome. We get together the 8th grade band, we perform some simple stuff, and we also show them new musical tricks such as turning like a simple song like Happy Birthday and putting that in a minor to kind of like show them how music really works. And yeah, it's really fun. It's for their enjoyment and for our enjoyment, and yeah. We also have a retro dance going on. That's after the game this Friday night. Old school cost, games, musics, and more. Now this is hosted by fans in the business department, so you can come get hip with the 60s, 70s, and 80s music. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna pop my collar and go to that one, so yeah. O'Neill and Diego Rivera upcoming activities. We've got blanket making this Thursday. The student government actually passed a grant to help them. They sent one of their president, Keone Bailey, and we worked out a finance committee to get a grant to them for these blankets, help pay for that. And we also have the Spanish Honor Society Diego Rivera contributions to Oshkosh. Now, they are craft making for nursing homes. Chantal Bougie and Desiree Floral actually put together those bottom 3 craft decorations on their own. So we're going to be making those for nursing homes, as well as caroling around the community. So that should be really fun. All right, thank you, and go Wildcats.
Thank you, David. Catherine?
Here's the North update for December. So first off, I just want to kind of recap Veterans Day. We held our annual Veterans Day ceremony, which included a welcome breakfast for the veterans. The Oshkosh North communities helped a lot with this event, from standing out in the parking lot directing traffic for where people should park, to escorting the veterans to the breakfast in the Commons, and just being really cheerful and thankful to everyone. And our ceremony was once again a success, and we were very proud of the students at Oshkosh North for being so respectful and so thankful as the community and the school came together to honor our veterans. And if you attended, you'd know that I think it was incredibly touching, and I think everybody was deeply affected by the words and the emotions that were shared. And we sure hope that our veterans felt honored and loved. The next thing is that on last Wednesday, Oshkosh North had the blood drive, and you can see the whole slew of companies that donated food for it. And you can see one of the students, Kristen Leonard at Oshkosh North, she worked at Dairy Queen, so she got us an ice cream cake for the event too. And although we haven't got the official numbers on how many participated back, 115 were signed up, which is pretty good. And now we have the sports update. So the North boys basketball team won both games they played over Thanksgiving break against Madison and Plymouth. And the boys play next at Kimberly on Friday, but the next home game is on the 16th of December against Appleton North. The North girls basketball team played against number 3 ranked Milwaukee King on Saturday in Brookfield. That was a tough loss for them, but Milwaukee King was pretty good. And they actually host Kimberly this Friday at 7:15 in the North Gym. The Co-op Ice Hawks boys hockey team defeated Arrowhead on the 29th of November, 5-4, and they host Beaver Dam tomorrow at the YMCA starting at 7. And also the North Dance teams compete in Ashwaubenon on the 6th. And there you can see it's kind of small, but those 3 girls are the people who qualified to go to state for girls swimming. So we have Ashley Wilson, Lauren Nevue, and Catherine Pippins, and we're very proud of them. And we have our winter week, which is December 15th through the 19th. We'll have dress-up days, one of them being Ugly Sweater Day, where we all wear ugly holiday sweaters. And the Student Council does a Secret Santa for the staff all week. So each student can pick a staff member, and they give them a little present each day throughout that week. And then on the 19th, we have a breakfast where the students can formally meet the teachers that they gave presents to all week. And it's really fun, and it's just another way to thank the teachers for being so great. And so our upcoming events this month have mostly to do with holiday concerts. We have the Holiday Cheer Concert on December 16th at 8 p.m. in the Alberta Kimball Auditorium. December 18th is the Holiday Band Concert at 7:30 p.m. in the Jesse Hooper Auditorium at North. And December 22nd in the afternoon is the Holiday Collage Concert, when the Oshkosh North Madrigals, band, orchestra, and Madrigals choir perform for the school. And that's really fun, just because it is a good way to kick off right before break. And so happy holidays and a happy new year from Oshkosh.
Thank you. Mr. Mack.
Yes, thank you, President Inhofe, and I will attempt to make sure I don't duplicate any of the wonderful news shared by our 2 student representatives. First of all, continuing on the Veterans Day celebrations, Green Meadow Elementary School students enjoyed the opportunity to learn about the military with Tipler's Veterans Day celebration at Tipler. The EAA and the Military Museum provided display and actual vehicles to crawl upon. And in the afternoon, the formal program took place that included honoring veterans as well. Thank you to the Green Meadow students as well as Tipler. And then Perry Tipler's Veterans Day program was on Wednesday, November 12th. Veterans and their families and friends enjoyed live music played by the Tipler Band and orchestra students, and a speech by Sergeant Major John Motz, otherwise known as also Winnebago County Sheriff, and watching and presenting gifts by Mr. Roloff, the city manager. Tipler students served veterans and their families refreshments after the event. The Alps Lego League advanced to the sectional tournament. The Alps Lego League team named Backstein Vulcan, Brick Falcons in Dutch, was competed against 43 other teams in their first Lego Logo League regional competition in Appleton on November 16th. The team successfully qualified for a Lego League sectional tournament to be held at Oshkosh North High School on December 7th. The team also received the Gracious Professionalism Award for showing each other and other teams respect at all times. The reward recognized that both friendly competition and mutual gain are possible on and off the playing field. The team members are Michael Foley, Ella Hardy, Xavier Hendricks, grade 7, Anna Koslopis, Mercedes Stromberg, Joey Starnowski, Peter Lowenstein, and in grade 6, and Ian Sabai and Zachary Weber, grade 5, and Hannah Chung in grade 4th. Our administrative team had the privilege of meeting with this team in person in the superintendent's office yesterday afternoon, and we were so impressed with their efforts, or on Monday afternoon. They just did an outstanding job, and individual students were prompting us on how we could strengthen the science curriculum that they're working on, and they had a wonderful time sharing with us both in verbal presentation as well as a video their expectations for the school district, and they were quite clear with them. A creative experience for families of Davis 4K students. Students at Davis 4K turn pumpkins into their favorite storybook character. This family engagement activity got children talking with their families about books that they know and love, and brought each family creatively back to school. The dedication and ribbon cutting ceremony took place. The University of Wisconsin Oshkosh and the City of Oshkosh leaders were joined by child care students at the Children's Learning and Care Center for dedication of the Lincoln Hall back on September 16th. For some reason, this must have been by Pony Express getting here, but that event was a wonderful event to celebrate the conversion of the former Lincoln School into Lincoln Hall, including child care programming, and we also have one of our 4K program at that location. Pushing it for a cause, on October 31st, the staff at South Park competed in teams of 4 to see who could push the United Way car 30 yards the fastest. Teams had to pay to participate, and all the proceeds went to the United Way. It was a chilly day, but the Halloween costumes kept the staff warm. Big thank you to Bob Herzog for making the arrangements to bring the car over and for attending the event, actually riding in the car. A big thank you to Pam Ruder for bringing the United Way Corps to the school, and thank you to Susan Panic for taking pictures, and well, thank you to Stanley for coming to just watch. I had the easiest job that afternoon. Congratulations also to Oshkosh West senior volleyball player Amira Wallace, as she recently signed a letter of intent to play college volleyball at NCAA Division II Pace University in Westchester, New York. Artist and musical talents on display. On October 21st, over 100 Carl Traeger Elementary students had their artwork displayed in the Galleria at Mercy Medical Center. Each year, Mercy hosts a pumpkin walk, and this is the third year Carl Traeger Elementary students have been given the opportunity to share their work with the community during the fun fall event. Connie Campbell is Carl Traeger's Mercy partner at Learning at PAL Representatives, as she does an amazing job at performing the student work and providing space to showcase students' visual art achievement. Last year, they also began inviting students to play the baby grand piano during the event, and many of the students from Carl Traeger Elementary were able to share their musical talents along with those who had visual art on display. They are very thankful for the partnership with Mercy Medical Center and all the opportunities and partnerships that is made available for Traeger students. Merrill Middle School Jazz Band received $230 from Madison Jazz Society to purchase a bass amplifier. In November, the Madison Jazz Society awarded grants totaling $5,605 from its school grant fund to music programs in 27 schools. The grant are funding jazz-centered programs designed to help students learn more about how to perform jazz. Merrill Middle School was awarded the $230 to underwrite the purchase of that bass amplifier. Formed in 1984, the Madison Jazz Society is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization that encourages the performance and the education about jazz as a music area. Reed students take the pledge. Fifth graders at Reed Elementary took the challenge to become anti-bullying role models. They have been invited to make a pledge to make and prevent bullying at Reed Elementary schools and within the community. The students discussed how to be leaders, how to stand up to bullies, and how to help those who have been bullied. They brainstormed ideas, developed a written pledge, and had a ceremony in which they received winter scarves from the ABC Knitters and the Crocheters of Oshkosh. The scarves are represented to students in leadership and concern for the community. And this effort by the ABC Knitters last year took place in the district, and again this year providing scarves for students as a reminder for anti-bullying efforts. Holiday Helpers, a crew of 5 students from Oshkosh North High School volunteered recently at the Oshkosh Senior Center. The students helped to construct and decorate 10 trees for the holidays. Conscious Discipline Certified Instructor, congratulations to Diane Peterson for becoming the 3rd person in the state of Wisconsin to be certified as a Conscious Discipline Instructor. A tremendous amount of effort and hours goes into this endeavor with such participation in numerous training, evaluations, videotape submissions, and reflections. Diane states that most importantly you have to be a practitioner of conscious discipline and have shown evidence of personal growth in the application of those skills you've learned. In short, it is both an honor and a privilege to have the letter CCDI after your name. Jacob Shapiro Brain-Based Instructional Laboratory Schools is fortunate to have this resource at their fingertips. Congratulations, Diane. District office adopts Boys and Girls Club families for the holidays. For those of you who might have walked around the outside of the boardroom, just on the other side of the back wall, it looks like quite a holiday experience for several families. The staff of the district opened their hearts to adopt 2 families with the Boys and Girls Club for Christmas. It was heartwarming to see the results of the shopping and donations that made for 8 children and their parents. Nice work to the district office staff for that. And lastly, you'll find a whole list of activities participated in by the superintendent in the last 2-week period. This time of the year becomes a very full night. Last night, 2 concerts and a girls' basketball game all squeezed into one evening. One has to really keep moving to try to get to as many events, but it's truly enjoyable, and I always enjoy having the opportunity to watch our students perform and succeed in their endeavors in each and every one of our schools. So, great evening last night.
All right, thank you very much. Any other reports this evening? Okay. John?
The Energy Committee met on Monday at the maintenance building on South Main Street. And apparently I missed a meeting because I showed up and found out that I was now co-chair of the committee along with Sarah Housey.
That happens when you miss meetings.
I'll make note of that, yeah. Anyhow, we had a good discussion about a number of things. Some update from Glenn Bolt on our energy website link. They're going to name a designated person to update the website. Glenn is working with Aaron Vanden Heuvel on that. And we also had an update on facilities projects. We've been told that 3 projects have been completed and that we're currently working on a 2-week study on carbon dioxide. Our systems take in outside air a certain amount, so they monitor the CO2 levels in the room so we get the correct amount of air so everything is working optimally. So they've been working on that 2-week study. We're also, the district is working with engineers at Lakeside for the upcoming construction, which I think it says here takes place next summer. Phase 1 of the 2014-2016 McKinn Street energy efficiency updates will include Smith Elementary, Roosevelt Elementary, and possibly the district office here. And year 2 will include updates to Oshkosh North and Jacob Shapiro Elementary. We also got an update on the training associated with the new boilers and univents for the custodians. And we talked a little bit about how the mindset of the custodians kind of have to change from being reactive to proactive with the new systems that are in place. And there's a new work order system called School Dude, which I thought was kind of an interesting name, that people can use to request temperature adjustments with. We had an energy usage report from Glenn Bolt. He distributed the energy usage reports for all the district buildings from August through October, and we kind of took a look at those. We have a number of buildings that do qualify for Energy Star, but we've talked about this before in the past, that it costs money to actually get the sign, and so we're kind of saying, well, maybe we don't want to do that. We talked about other ways that we can advertise that, and one way was to put it on our website saying these buildings would be qualified for Energy Star if we chose to apply for that. Just to sort of let the community know that their money's being well spent on that, and we have a number of buildings. I think about, I can't remember, was it 8, Dan, something like that are qualified?
Yeah, 8 would qualify now.
Yeah. So, kind of talked about that a bit, and then the next item, which we talked a little about, but kind of deferred to the next meeting, a reward program for our custodial staff that have been making a difference in their buildings, and that's going to come back. We really haven't firmed anything up on that, but we want to recognize the custodians for the work they're doing with these new systems and helping us with our energy efficiency. Energy efficiency rules, we had a little chat about that, about posting rules within the building so that teachers and students can see them and remember to do things like turn the light off when you leave a room and little stuff like that. So we'll probably have some kind of a point-by-point or bullet point kind of poster to put up prominently in different places just to remind people. So that, I think, was pretty much, in a nutshell, what we talked about. Future agenda items, again, the custodial reward program, more updates on our energy webpage, the energy rules thing, photos and narratives, updating the process of status of construction projects and things like that, and then maybe having some kind of alternate sticker to the Energy Star thing, that just so we can, without violating copyright, obviously, we got to be careful, but just so people know this, we have these buildings that are meeting the qualifications. And the next meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 2nd at 10 a.m. in the maintenance building on South Main Street.
All right, that's quite a bit.
It's quite a bit.
Well, thanks, John. Anyone else have anything to report? No, seeing none, we'll go on to our first workshop for this evening. Nearside Clinic, Mike Knott, Sue Schnorr, and special guest Dana Skinner from Inter.
Good evening. As Matt said, we're going to do a presentation on the Nearside Clinic. And before we get started on that, this is Dana Skinner. And Dana is the Vice President of Operations for Intera. And as you're well aware, Intera is the provider that we have selected to contract with for the next 3 years for our Nearside Clinic. We started this journey about a year ago, and Sue and I have been meeting with the city officials and the county officials probably about every 2 weeks over the last year. And it's what's neat about this is you start at a point of almost zero, and it looks like approximately January 19th, given everything goes well, we'll be opening the doors and starting business. So to see something come from nothing to fruition is a pretty neat feeling. And we're well on our way, and it's going to be, as you're going to learn tonight, some more details relative to, yes, here we go. So with that, one of the other thing is Sue is going to spend a little time on the interagency agreement that has been, that's with the city and the county, and of course that's had multiple looks at with our attorney, the city attorney, the county attorney, but Sue will hit on a few of the major points with that. So with that, Dana.
Thank you. All right. So in Terra Health, so just so you're a little bit more familiar with what we do, is we're a wellness company. What we do is we work with employers specifically to take healthcare services and wellness initiatives right into the workplace to benefit employees. We know that employees are spending a large chunk of their day at work, so to better prevent health versus react to poor health, we believe that we can make a greater impact by bringing these services into the workplace. And so really our mission is to help people live healthier lives and hoping that your employees can benefit from that as well and share that with their families. The approach that we'll take within the clinic is really more of a patient-centric approach. So we want to make sure that we are creating an environment in which people feel supported and it's a place that they can come to. We'll make sure that we take great care into customizing and coordinating patient care to make sure that it's a positive experience. We think that there's a better approach to healthcare, making sure that it's coordinated. Because we're an independent healthcare company, there's really no benefit to us for any type of steerage. So we can really make sure that we're focusing on the patient or your employee, making sure that we coordinate their care in their best interest. We offer a variety of different services. Primarily, we'll be talking about the clinic services this evening. We spent a lot of time looking at different site selections, making sure that we chose the correct or an appropriate location for the clinic. Because we're kind of going into a joint venture with both the city and the county, it was important to make sure that we found a location that was easily accessible for all parties. So after a lot of searching around, the location that we came to is going to be located at 292 Ohio Street. There's a little image of the outside of the building. Construction is underway. Walls are going up.
I'm sorry, if I could add on to that too. One of the critical things in our selection of a facility or location was confidentiality. Because we did talk about near-site or an on-site clinic, which would be an on-site piece, but confidentiality was a little bit of a concern. So that was also a major piece in the selection of the location.
Yes, it was.
I'm sorry.
So along with the location being easily accessible for everyone, and there's designated parking so that it's easy and it's not a hassle to get to the clinic. Also, some other key features that will really be beneficial with the clinic is the ability to do customized branding for the clinic. This is really truly a private access clinic for your employees. It's a really great benefit to be able to offer to employees. So we're looking at doing some specific branding where the three groups get to create a custom name, a custom logo, so that employees really understand that this is a benefit that's being offered specifically to them. In addition to the accessibility, like Mike mentioned, the confidentiality. We can do clinics like this, on-site at an employer location or at a near site like this. One of the benefits of the near site is, especially with having multiple different buildings within your district, is that we really can create that separation from the workplace so that when your employees are coming and being patients of our clinic, they feel comfortable, they know that they're secure and things like that. So that's another key aspect. Hours of operation, very important. We want to make sure that the clinic is conveniently accessible to employees or to our patients. So we'll be starting out with our hours of operation Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then Fridays from 8 to 5, so a wide range of hours where people will be able to be seen in the clinic. We do have the flexibility to expand those hours or change them, modify as we see fit, so that's something that we'll monitor on an ongoing basis, looking at utilization to make sure that the clinic is open and available when it's needed by our patients. Also, it's not a walk-in clinic, so visits are by appointment only, so we'll be doing a lot of communicating to make sure that people understand how to use the clinic once they need to go there. In terms of clinic staffing, we'll be using a physician assistant model. So mid-level providers will have 2 full-time physician assistants. The clinic does have the ability to grow, so we're building it so that we can expand our providers. We'll have about 6 exam rooms, so we'll be able to certainly expand beyond 2 providers, but we're going to start with 2 full-time physician assistants. With a PA, their primary focus can be on primary, preventive, and acute medical care. As a mid-level provider, similar to a nurse practitioner, you're seeing a lot of primary care go that way, so they're able to evaluate, interpret, diagnose, treat illnesses and conditions. They also have the ability to prescribe medications, but also within the clinic we'll be doing a dispensing program. So PAs in this setting will actually be able to dispense, and we will have an inventory of select medications on site at the clinic just to really add to that convenience. So supporting the PAs, we'll have 2 full-time medical assistants to start as well. The PA's general function is really to support the PAs so that we can be as efficient as possible with the PA's time. They'll be there to greet and welcome your patients, help with scheduling, things like that, calling in prescriptions if it's needed, but also just assisting those PAs, taking vitals, rooming patients, things like that. We'll also be able to administer vaccines and do lab testing, so MAs are important, playing a role in terms of those services. The core services that we'll really be focusing on for the clinic, in addition to your standard primary, preventive, and acute care services, will be a focus on wellness and prevention. So our approach is holistic. We want to make sure that we're helping people achieve good health. We're preventing illness before it starts. So there's a different kind of element that comes into play there. Laboratory, essentially, we will have some point of care testing that can be done at the clinic, so a strep test, something like that, pregnancy test, but also we'll have a full lab at the clinic as well. So virtually any lab that a patient would need to have drawn can be done at the clinic. We can also accept lab orders from outside the building. So if someone's already working with a provider, they don't want to make a switch, it is more cost effective to do their labs with us, so we can accept those lab orders and share that information with their physician as well. So there's a great opportunity for cost savings there. Immunizations and vaccinations, this is a fantastic benefit, especially for children that may be seen in the clinic. A huge opportunity, usually about 40% savings just for being able to offer those immunizations and vaccinations at no cost for the employees. And then also the on-site prescription dispensing program. So this will be a really fantastic benefit. What we've done is we've developed a select formulary just for this clinic. And so we've looked at claims information, looking at the 3 different groups involved in the clinic, and we've identified the top probably about 30-ish prescriptions that we'd be able to dispense in the clinic. So it's one of those commonly utilized prescriptions. We'll have an inventory on hand at the clinic. As the clinic continues to go, we'll evaluate that inventory. If we need to expand it, change it, add seasonal medications, antibiotics, things like that, we'll have the flexibility to do that as well. So again, any employee or I guess user of the clinic would get those prescriptions at no cost when they get them through the clinic. So really great opportunities for the organization to save money and then for the patients to save money as well. And then kind of the final piece, we've been putting a lot of focus and effort on building the clinic, and the doors are almost ready to open. It's not always if you build it, they will come. So the next phase will then be, we'll finish the build out, and then we'll move into truly communicating with people so that they're aware of the clinic's existence, the benefits that are available to them. So we will deploy a very comprehensive communication plan, looking at direct mail, a grand opening event where we'll invite people to come in and see the clinic. They can meet the providers, see the space, understand that it is a real clinic. It looks and it feels like a real clinic. There's nothing to be scared of there. Also print marketing that we can put into the different buildings, posters, bios, flyers, and then we'll probably also do something with video. So for anyone that's not able to attend a grand opening, they'll still be able to visually see the clinic and get a highlight reel of some of the key benefits that'll be offered at the clinic.
Well, if I could just add a couple of things before you go. So is that all right?
Sure.
After being in this profession 34 years and doing multiple interviews with teachers and administrators, I had a unique experience about a week and a half ago to sit in on the interviews with the city and the county relative to the 2 PAs and the 2 medical assistants. And that was really a neat experience, I must share with you. And we did select 1 PA and we did select two MAs, and we're coming back now, I think on the 12th, to look at another, to get the other PA on board. So it was very enjoyable, and I think we're going to be in good hands. Really neat.
I just want to share also the board packet materials you had a name of a clinic, and I put that was tentative because the copyright, when we did find it, violated a copyright. So the name that's in your board materials is not going to be the name of the clinic. We've come up with a new name, but we want to check that for copyright before we announce that new name. But we're going to still stay with the logo that was on there, so we're just coming up with a different name. So that'll be announced probably within the next few days after we find out if there's a copyright against that name.
And I assume the branding and marketing that you're talking about is all aimed directly at the employees of the 3 groups only.
Right. Employees, independents, and anyone on our health plan.
On our health plan, the critical piece.
It would include retirees as well who are on the health plan.
School board members? No, not on our health plan. The other part is, and I actually put it as a separate staff report so you could look at it, was the the interagency agreement, Mike and I have a really, really good relationship with our colleagues at the city and the county, but it's always good to have that agreement in writing and in paper, so if for whatever reason that relationship falls apart, we do have this agreement. And I've outlined in the staff report the major provisions. I think the only thing I want to point out is I think the major part of the agreement is really the distribution of costs. Because we don't know who's going to utilize the clinic, we started out by saying that the school district picks up 50% because of all of the eligible people who could go to the clinic. We have 50% of the eligible people. But then we're going to let that go for the first 6 months. 6 months or a year, I think. I think we're going to evaluate it next summer. So 6 months. We'll let it go for 6 months, and then we'll evaluate that. And let's say if the school district is actually using 40% of the participants, then we would back that cost off, and then we'd be reviewing that in the future quarterly. So it could change every quarter what percentage we're taking of the clinic costs. And the actual important part of that is not so much for the participants, it's when there's downtime, we're paying those staffing. So if no one's coming to the clinic, we're still paying the hourly rates of those people. So that's the cost that we would split up over the 50, the 30, and the 20. So I think that's a major part of the agreement that we'll be bringing back to you on the 17th for your approval. And again, we've had legal counsel, our legal counsel look at it, and the city and the county's legal counsel has looked at it as well.
Thank you.
Perhaps you can explain just briefly, Michael, into why we started doing this neuropsych clinic concept.
Good question, Stephen, thank you. Sure. As you're well aware, our healthcare costs have escalated over the last X amount of years, and matter of fact, in 13-14, I think it went up 11.4%, and our health insurance went up this year much less, but still, a heavy 7%, which is a considerable chunk of our budget. And so the purpose, one of the purposes of the neuropsych clinic is to try to put a dent in that. The other major purpose is to take care of our employees and for their health and wellness. But if we can also put a dent in that health insurance by having a lot of people participate with the neuro clinic, versus their physician or their provider at a reduced cost, hopefully we can have our utilization be reduced, and then of course that consequently ends up with our premiums reduced, and of course hopefully that's going to help with our budget situation in the years to come.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. You were talking about the holistic approach of the clinic, and you said that it sounded like there was just extra room for now, and maybe we'll fill it with exam rooms. But the other thought I had is, for a holistic approach, would you have perhaps services, maybe, I don't know, yoga or weightlifting or other kinds of services that are even more preventative and can add to overall wellness? I don't know if that's part of the long-term plan or...
Absolutely. We are able to offer a variety. From chiropractic, health coaches, disease management. We do have some space built in. If we want to have like a multi-purpose room where we wanted to do, whether it's just educational seminars, if you wanted to use it for something like yoga, it's really open to whatever, you want it to be, which is the beauty of it. It's completely, flexible around that.
Very cool.
Which is interesting you mentioned.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Monday, I think, Monday this week, so this morning, there was a group of people that met that were talking about the city, the county, and the school district coming up with an exercise program together. And I wasn't able to attend the meeting because I had a conflict, but we're already looking at ways that the three groups can get together to do maybe some of that other kind of things as well.
And the other thing that I'd add to that is that Intera does provide a pretty thorough wellness program. And what we were going to do, we've already talked about it, but we haven't done it yet because we're trying to get this off the ground, is we're going to ask Diane Vogel and somebody from Intera to come together, and we're going to look at what we currently offer, what they offer, and whether we blend it or we go one or the other, we don't know yet.
Okay. Great.
And
Mark?
So I have a question on your staff report under the budget financial impact. You noted that this had been reviewed by the district business office, but you didn't check a box as to whether or not it does or does not fit into the budget, and there are no dollar figures. So should I assume there aren't any costs at the district for this, or there are?
I guess I didn't put that in because when we did
previous staff report, I included it. The first year anticipated cost is about $600,000.
Okay.
And $500,000 of that is coming from GHT directly. So our health insurance carrier is picking up $500,000 of the anticipated cost of the clinic. The difference between that and what the actual cost will be, I believe, will end up coming from reducing our district's HRA outlay. Because if the people can attend the clinic at no cost, and so that means then they're not hitting our health plan, which means they're not hitting our HRA. So I think that the difference in that will come from HRA savings.
Okay.
So I apologize for not.
Oh, that's okay. Just want to make sure I didn't miss something. And then I had two other quick questions. It was on your second slide, which looked like the Entera Health, maybe the mission or vision statement, inspires healthy living within individuals to influence movement across organizations. I'm a little confused by the phrase "to influence movement across organizations."
It's a good question. So we know that to inspire healthy living within an individual has to start with them. And if we can build a culture of health and wellness around an organization, if we can transform that for all of your employees essentially, that will create movement. So when we look at if we can increase the amount of people that are healthy, that's going to also reduce the amount of healthcare that they need to consume. So that's what we're trying to do. We start with the individual, but then we know that if we can kind of start that wave, that's what we want to do.
Okay. And then my final point is not a question but a statement. There's a movement, since we're using that word, in the valley called Weight of the Fox Valley. Maybe you're aware of that. A multi-county effort to reduce weight, because we know that weight often contributes to other health issues. So that might be something to explore as well, that would tie in with what Allison was saying about yoga and other activities to assist some of us who would like to do that, even though the board isn't eligible. Thank you.
Other questions? If the board has no further questions, I would just like to take the time to thank Mike and Sue. Other than one or two meetings that they asked me to attend, along with my CEO colleagues from the other two organizations, to continue to provide the support and to be updated on the progress. The heavy burden of this work has been with Mike and Sue, and they have taken charge with this throughout the year, just attending numerous meetings. I generally knew that if both of them were gone, they were both working on that project. They were out of the building, working with our colleagues with the county and the city. And frankly, what I have discovered through their work in representing us, we have built a stronger and stronger relationship with our colleagues with the city as well as with the county that have not always, certainly not been oppositional, but the partnership is going a long way for continued cooperation. I know many times that in the past that we've shared equipment, shared facilities, shared varying other operations. Now we're sharing in the health of our employees, and that's thanks to Mike and Sue taking that charge that was given to us by our insurance carrier to say we're offering you an incentive to do something with this, and it has taken lots of detailed work, and I'm very grateful to both of them for all of their work in making this come through, and looking forward to the grand opening in the middle of January.
I appreciate the comments, Stan, but I want the board to know that Stan's leadership got this started. Stan had some experiences with this in Minnesota, said to us, I'd like to see if we could get something going. AFG informed us that Mike Collard with the county had been in Sheboygan prior to coming here and had worked with the school district and the city and the county over there. So we made a phone call to Mike and said, hey, we'd like to talk about it, and here we are. So Stan's leadership really got us going.
Well, thank you very much, and we hope this is something that will benefit the entire community. Next, we have a request for 2014-15 school calendar modifications. Julie Mosier.
Good
evening, and thanks for having us up for the second workshop this evening. I would like to introduce my co-presenters this evening. First, we have Steve Harrison, Assistant Principal at Oshkosh West High School, and Alyssa Hoffman, Assistant Principal at Oshkosh North High School. And to kind of piggyback on the thank yous, we owe both of these individuals a thank you because they have the task of being assessment coordinators at each of their sites. Each of the high schools have gone from administering one state assessment in 10th grade one time during a year to administering, you're going to see quite an enormous amount of assessments in logistics coming up this school year, and so that really has impacted their duties and their time. And so the whole administrative teams at the high school have had to make some adjustments to make sure that Steve and Alyssa have been freed up. But we could not do the things that we did this fall and have the success that we did with the ACT Aspire as a very large district that we did without these two individuals. So thank you to them. We had a very different experience in Oshkosh than some other districts around the state because of their work. So we really appreciate that. So today we are going to be talking about the ACT Plus Writing and actually new assessment ACT work keys. As I kind of alluded to, accountability testing in the state of Wisconsin has drastically changed. And coming up this school year, every single grade level will be touched by a state-required assessment, and that's 4K, our 4-year-old kindergarten, all the way through 12th grade, because this year Oshkosh North is going to be administering the NAEP, the National Assessment, to our seniors. And so every single grade level in the Oshkosh Area School District is tested this year. So we have everything from PALS, which is early literacy assessment, to ACT, to now Smarter Balanced. We were talking about is replacing the WKCE. The new name for that is the Badger exam, and the Badger exam is administered grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and that's going to be in the spring. But tonight, we are just going to be focusing on our juniors and the ACT. And to get us going, I'm going to turn this over to Steve Harrison, who's going to talk about our schedule this year for high school.
So to get started, I'll just first give you a background as far as what the testing looks like, particularly for the ACT Plus Writing and the ACT work keys. From there, then Alyssa will basically go over what would the proctor requirements look like for all schools and what would the facility requirements look like, again, per ACT. And then to finish up, Julie will talk about any calendar implications that will take place as well. So to get started here, you're looking at basically an overview of what the state testing cycle looks like for all students in the state of Wisconsin for grades 9, 10, and 11. So as Julie alluded to before, we recently got done with the ACT Aspire in the fall for freshmen. They will have that again in the spring. And so what you're looking at are basically two assessments that freshmen, sophomores, and juniors will take throughout the year. Freshmen having the ACT Aspire in the fall and spring. Sophomores having the WKC exam, which we just completed in Science and Social Studies. Sophomores will also, like their freshman peers, be taking the ACT Aspire this spring as well. In fact, there's roughly 10 days in between when the freshmen will be finishing the ACT Aspire and when sophomores will then be beginning the ACT Aspire. And then what we'll be focusing on tonight, again, the ACT for juniors, ACT Plus Writing. All juniors in the state of Wisconsin will be taking that March 3rd. And then the ACT work keys that all juniors in the state of Wisconsin will be taking on March 4th. And also, as Julie alluded to previously, North was selected as well for 12th grade students to be taking the NAEP February 10th as well. As far as the actual testing dates, one of the things that's really unique about ACT Plus Writing and ACT work keys compared to other state assessments that we've encountered in the past is that it's not so much a window as much as it's a select date. So, we have a window that we'd be able to work through for WKC, for example, of so many days in which we could choose when to administer the exams. With the ACT Plus Writing and ACT work keys, it's one day that all students in the state of Wisconsin on that day will be taking the exam. So the initial test dates, the ACT Plus Writing will be March 3rd. The very next day, ACT work keys will be taking place March 4th. Another key difference is that with our makeup dates, again in the past we have a window for which we could do makeup testing for things such as WKCE. With ACT, it's one day that we have set aside by the state for makeup for ACT Plus Writing, March 17th. and 1 day for doing makeup testing in the state of Wisconsin for ACT work keys. Where you will see a window is that if students do have ACT-approved accommodations, they do have a window as far as how long they're able to use for testing. And that would be the same start date of March 3rd and March 4th for those two respective exams, but then extending further into the calendar. In addition, another unique aspect of ACT compared to other assessments we've given our students is that there is a required pre-test that, again, all students must take prior to actually having that ACT administered to them. So the ACT pre-test will be February 25th. ACT recommends 60 solid minutes devoted for that. And what the pretest is basically students having their test labeled books provided to them once we are able to match students with their IDs to their tests. From there, they have to fill out demographic information, where they want their scores to go to as far as colleges and so on. So that is very different than what they would have had in previous assessments. The makeup for that pretest to be completed, again, being a requirement for them to take the test, is February 26th, the next day.
And if anybody has any pull with the weather, please do not have any weather days on March 3rd or March 4th. Our fingers are very much crossed.
So to focus first on one of the two exams, again, so we're talking about the ACT plus writing and the ACT work keys. First part here is the ACT plus writing. And so when in the past you hear about ACT, you think about the college admissions exam. That's what we're talking about for this test. This is the test in which those scores would be college reportable. This is a paper pencil assessment, as it has been in the past, whereas the ACT Aspire that I talked to previously with freshmen and sophomores is computer-based. This is paper pencil. There are 4 timed tests that students are taking, broken down into English, 45 minutes, mathematics 16, a break for 15, followed by the reading test for 35, science for 35, then another 5-minute break, followed up with the writing test of 30 minutes. And again, we're basically double dipping here because not only is it part of our school accountability score, but now students have the option of being able to take this and use it as their college submission score for ACT, which is different. The next day then, March 4th, would be the ACT work keys, which again is a new assessment as well. This is more of a job skills assessment. This is going to potentially help employers then select, train, develop, and retain high-performance workforce. This is more of foundational and soft skills as far as their assessment. But from this, depending upon what level of proficiency students test at, they could be then provided with a certificate based on their test scores from this exam, which they would then be able to provide employers, future employers with. So this would not be the college test scores. This would be more for employability. This test is broken up into 3 parts, also paper pencil. Per ACT, the order in which it must be given, and with to the right there you're seeing the timeline. The reading for information, 45 minutes, followed up by applied mathematics, 45 minutes, a 15-minute break after that, finishing up with a third test of locating information, also 45 minutes. So this would be 3 tests compared to the other that is 4. As far as the number of students in the Oshkosh Area School District, juniors, who would be taking these 2 exams, based on current enrollment records, there would be 417 juniors at Oshkosh West that would be taking both exams, and 316 juniors at Oshkosh North. These numbers do include those students who are in alternate ed programs. So for example, any junior that we would have at Riverside or at Second Chance would also be included as needing to take these exams as well. Alternate testing that would be taking place as well during this time. So we have what's called dynamic learning maps, and this will be provided to a very, very small percentage of our junior students in place of the ACT. This would be administered to students that who do have significant cognitive disabilities and does require a 1-to-1 proctor-student ratio. Our plan is for any student at North or West who would need to take the DLM to do that on March 3rd. That way we would be the most efficient with their timing, knowing that if any junior needed to take an assessment, whether it was ACT plus writing or the DLM, they were doing that the same day. And then finally, to wrap up my portion here, this visual just basically showing you the full spectrum of what's involved with ACT planning. So this would be for literally every high school in the state of Wisconsin and what the test coordinators would need to work through. There's basically the before, the during, and the after as far as the planning here. So believe it or not, we've actually been talking about this since last June when we got together at both schools and just talked about, okay, what are the things we need to address as far as the new assessments that we must work through. So what we did from there in the fall was just basically receiving information from ACT as far as what needs to take place in order to accurately and successfully implement the test. Specific to the ACT plus writing, we also need to had to work with our special education departments at both schools in order to submit basically accommodation applications. So every student who would either have a 504 plan or an IEP who we would be looking for accommodations. The key difference here is that unlike things like WKCE or other state assessments, for their scores to be college reportable, they actually need to be first approved by ACT. And so I know I speak for both high schools when I say I just cannot say enough praises of our special education teachers at both high schools as far as just the huge amount of work that they put forth as far as just preparing the documents, going through, getting everything put together. It was a very extensive process, and they more than beat their deadline. They just did amazing work considering how many IEPs and 504s they had to work through. So again, I really would like to offer praise to them.
And just to give you an idea, each of those accommodations is a packet that's filled out per student, which is a minimum of 5 full pages. So the amount of paperwork and the documentation that has to be gone through is a lot. So the thank yous go all around.
Absolutely,
Very well
did a
done.
fantastic job. So currently we're going through the training process as far as, what do we need to do in order to train the proctors at our schools? How do we need to logistically set up the ACT in order for this to be done successfully? Then in March 2nd through the 6th, we'll receive the non-secure materials, with a second shipment being the secure materials. Difference being secure materials would be test booklets and so on, whereas non-secure would be more things like test labels for students. From there, we have our testing windows, which I discussed previously, and the preset ACT make-up dates. From there, then, we will submit our scores, or submit our completed tests, and then 3 to 8 weeks following testing is when students and parents can expect to receive information back, and then between June and July, at some point around June 25th, school districts will be receiving their overall accountability scores as well. So it really truly is a cycle where you start in the summer and you continue and go all the way through. So pretty much as soon as we're receiving our scores, we'll already be talking about planning for the next school year.
So as far as the requirements that come to us from ACT and DPI, the ACT is a test that's been given for many, many years, obviously, but this is a scale that's unprecedented because it is every school in the state at the same time. So all sections have to be given continuously in the exact same order in every high school in the state of Wisconsin. On March 3rd, we can start the ACT no later than 9 a.m. Central Time. If we miss that start time for any reason, we cannot give it that day. We have to wait till the makeup date of the 17th. So if, for example, there's a 2-hour snow delay that day, we're pushed back to the 17th.
I'll work really hard to avoid
Start that. Thank you, I appreciate that. Come with your shovel to north, thank you. The same is true for the work keys on March 4th. That has to be started no later than 9 a.m. Central Time that day as well. As far as the proctors go, we have to be very choosy as to who we allow to proctor the exam. So any staff member that is a parent of a junior cannot serve as a test coordinator or have access to test accommodations. If we have athletic coaches, who are teachers also, they can proctor, but they cannot supervise in a one-on-one situation with a student athlete. And so we have decided that just to avoid any potential issues, we will keep coaches out of the same testing room with any of their athletes, regardless of the timing of the season. So even if someone's season is over, we still don't want them proctoring in a room with any of their athletes from their teams. Steve and Julie both alluded to the many assessments that we've already given this year. It has required quite a bit of time on the part of our teachers who are also serving as proctors. And so we are trying to diversify the proctoring duties a bit so that we don't hit the same teachers every single time that there's an assessment. As far as the requirements for proctors per room, ACT suggests a guideline of 1 proctor for every 18 to 25 students in a testing room, and they say that the ideal number is 20 because of the spacing requirements that I'll address in a little bit. In a room where students are receiving those special accommodations, you are limited to 1 proctor per 10 students. If there are 11 examinees, then you have to have 2 proctors. The proctors cannot do anything relating to ACT prep courses on the side, and they cannot be volunteers. They have to be district staff members. You cannot use student teachers. You cannot use parents, any other volunteers of any sort. So using all of that, we came up with a rough minimum number of proctors that we'll need for testing. So at Oshkosh West, we'll need to use 34 staff members as proctors, and at Oshkosh North, we'll need a minimum of 28. The same is true for the rooms required. At Oshkosh West, that's a minimum of 34 classrooms, and at Oshkosh North, that is 28 classrooms. This is our rough estimate right now. We will find out about our students' accommodations at the end of January. And at that point, we'll have a much better idea of how many students need smaller group situations. For example, any student that needs tests read aloud on a regular basis, for ACT, the proctor isn't allowed to read it aloud. Instead, ACT supplies us with DVDs. You can only put 1 student in a room with a DVD player. So for all of those students that need it read aloud, they're going to have one-on-one testing situations. So that's 1 room per student and 1 proctor per student. So this is a minimum number of proctors. We believe it's likely to go up from there. We do need a lot of additional staff as well. When you have 300 and 400 students taking a test, you have a lot of testing materials. And so we need help distributing those materials prior to the test, so during that pre-test session. And then during the exam itself, we're going to need a lot of roving proctors. And those people are going to assist us with check-in because we need to check all students' IDs against test labels and then seat them accordingly in the testing rooms. They need to monitor the hallways. No examinee can be allowed out of a room unescorted. So if a student needs to use the bathroom, they must be escorted to and from the bathroom. They will assist with monitoring examinees in testing rooms because we do have 20 students per room. We'd like to have more than 1 proctor if possible. They will give room supervisors breaks so that if the proctor needs to leave for whatever reason, they can do that. They'll be keeping the hallways quiet, and they'll be helping the test coordinators, which would be me and Steve, with counting and preparing all the materials, sorting it so that we can package it all and ship it back to ACT. They're very specific in terms of facilities requirements for us to do the ACT administration. We cannot do anything in a room where there are multiple levels or graduated seating. I know back in the day when I was taking the ACT, many times it was given in an auditorium setting. It's no longer allowed to be given in an auditorium setting at all. You can't have that graduated seating, and also you can't use lap boards at all. So most auditorium seats don't have desks anyway. We need to cover all the charts on the walls or remove them. The only exceptions are any geographic maps and periodic tables. Those are allowed to remain, but everything else must come down. You can never use study carrels or any sort of booths or partitioned areas. We cannot use bells or PA systems during testing. We need to keep the rooms completely free of distractions. For example, there can be no noise in the hallways, so passing time would be out. They have to have uninterrupted testing for 4 hours. Proctors must have a clear view of all examinees at all times and have enough aisle space to get to every seat without disturbing any of the examinees around them. Examinees must also all face the same direction, be seated on a single level in single rows, be seated in straight rows and columns directly in line with each other, and be at least 3 feet apart, both side to side and front to back. They suggest leaving desks empty in order to fulfill that 3 feet spacing requirement because in your average classroom, desks are not located 3 feet apart. Whenever possible, they should be seated facing an accurate wall clock so that they have an idea of how much time is remaining in the exam. And then they specify regarding tables, and this affects our situations where we have lab desks, for example, lab tables in science classrooms. If a table is less than 6 feet long, you can only have 1 examinee. Longer than 6 feet, you can have more than 1 student if they're at least 3 feet apart. Round tables can only have 1 examinee per table, and if we have left-handers, we have to take accommodations for that as well. And I tell you all these not because I think you're fascinated by left-handed examinees and their requirements, but because I believe that it limits the number of classrooms we can use. There are a lot of classrooms at both schools that simply don't meet the requirements, and so we can't use them for testing. So it kind of makes it a logistical puzzle for both me and Steve in terms of where do we put kids and how do we arrange everything. So it gets a little complicated.
So, given all these, and every single high school in the state of Wisconsin is facing this. I've had a conference call with Fond du Lac because Fond du Lac High School is bigger than Oshkosh West or Oshkosh North, and logistically, how are they going to do this? And with Appleton, et cetera, and I will talk more about that. But I know in our situation here for Oshkosh West and Oshkosh North, how are we going to do this if we have all of our students in session all at the same time with 34 classrooms, 28 classrooms at Oshkosh North? Logistically, we're really having a hard time figuring out how are we going to do this. It's really, this is so different than what we've been asked to do before. So we are asking that on March 3rd, we do a calendar modification, and that on March 3rd, only our juniors attend school on March 3rd, and our 9th, 10th, and 12th graders would not be required to be in attendance. On March 4th, we would do a half day. Our juniors would come in the morning because that work keys is a much shorter assessment, and so we would have lunch, and then all students would be in attendance in the afternoon. So we're asking for a calendar modification of 1.5 days. We can do this, and we are very fortunate that we have instructional minutes within our calendar. And actually, I think the state of Wisconsin DPI was kind of anticipating, they may have talked about weather days and the 179-day, 180-day requirement, but I think there was some thinking behind this too. Because currently, we have 179 school days for 1,159 hours of instruction. 1,137 hours of instruction is required per year at the secondary level, so we have extra hours. The minimum number of school days has been lifted by the state, and that was starting with this current school year. Okay. The high school has 22 hours over the minimum requirement. Okay. So the calendar modification would use 10.5 hours, leaving the high school with 11.5 extra hours. So for example, if we did have a delayed start, we would still be able to absorb that into our instructional hours. And also our Oshkosh Area School District calendar, we have snow days built in. We have the one built in March, we have the one built in May, and we have one built in at the end of the day, or at the end of the school year. So if we did have a weather day, we still have those built in, and that would not impact any of these statistics that are, any of the numbers that are up here. So we would have 1,148.5 hours of instruction for the 14-15 school year, and we would still be meeting those requirements. In discussions with other school districts, they're not in the same position we are in. And so, for example, Fond du Lac, we had a discussion with them. They're in a quandary because they do not have the extra hours that we have built into their calendar. And so other school districts are saying, what are you doing, Oshkosh? What are you doing? And this is where we're going because we happen to have the extra hours. I can tell you right now that other school districts, as they start to design their calendars and their instructional minutes for next school year, will have those extra hours built in there. And as we work on our school calendar for the 15-16 school year, we will have this automatically built in. We know the dates for the next school year for 15-16. So there will be no need for the calendar modification. We'll build it in automatically. So they're stuck, but we're in good shape, and so that's why we are asking for this calendar modification, and a resolution will be coming to you on December 17th asking for that. So we'll open it up. Oh, communication. This is going to be key here. Once we get, we better tell everybody about this. As soon as we have approval, if this goes forward, we will get this information out to the entire school community, and then we will communicate specifically with juniors, which we're going to have to anyway. Then we will have communication specifically for families for grades 9, 10, and 12, and then we will be contacting COBUS, and we'll have to work with food service, etc. But as soon as we have approval, and that's why we're coming to you in the month of December, so we can get this communication out and up and running. So now, I think we're ready for questions.
Thank you. Questions? John?
How does any of this benefit our students?
Okay, all right. Questions that they can answer? Any other
We're
questions?
very grateful that they can use it for college admission.
Correct.
We think that for many of our students, that is a bonus.
They always had the option of taking ACT.
They did. They had to pay for it separately.
Right. So who's paying for this?
State of Wisconsin? Yes.
You are.
Here.
We are. Yeah.
But I'll be honest, with the amount of work we've both done as far as preparing for the exam, putting together materials, let's not kid ourselves. It's a cost to the district. Paper alone has been significant as far as just the first round of the ACT Aspire that we did this fall.
I was a little irritated that we would actually dismiss school to do this. even though we have the hours. I mean, it's going to disrupt families. They're going to have childcare or whatever. I mean, these are older kids, but still.
Fortunately, it's for high schoolers. I think the big difference here, John, is that all of our other assessments give us windows. So like with our 9th graders, ACT, we had several, not a lot, but we had
2.5 weeks to choose from
to do that. There is no choice. I mean, it's got to be on that day. When we thought about, we'll do an early start or we'll late start or we'll just, no, it's 9, you have to be started before 9 a.m. I mean, we weren't kidding. You should see the packet of requirements that we have to go through. So, and it's to keep the integrity of the test. I mean, the ACT is very credible, and I mean, if you are going to administer in that way, you have to follow those guidelines, and we understand that, but logistically, we feel this is in the best interest of our students to give them a quality testing environment and the best interest of the district. We really want our students to do well, and logistically, I think this is going to be most cost effective.
From a standpoint of making sure this, certainly when we're about what percent, about 60-some% of our students participate in ACT?
Correct, 60%.
Yeah, 60% in the past. We're adding 40%, of which a good number of those are really reluctant test takers and students who have not experienced that kind of a stressful exam before. And creating that environment is the very best environment possibly for them to be successful. Is to the advantage of them individually, but also certainly an advantage to the school district. Our credibility and integrity with delivering on this assessment is in each and every year is a absolute essential for our community and the greater state reflects on Oshkosh Area School District. And so are doing this to perfection, and we have 3 individuals here along with a lot of their support staff who are perfectionist specialists. They are very precise in their approach. I think as I reflect upon this, the reality is we have 3 people with science backgrounds who are all in administrative positions who are just among the best with precision. And that's a really a great strength for their leadership in that area.
And another key difference too, John, is with the other assessments, ACT Aspire, the reason why it wasn't as significant of an interruption is we could take all of our students at that time and put them in computer labs, so we wouldn't have classes going on at that time, whereas with the ACT, as you saw from the guidelines, we can't have staggered seating, we can't use the auditorium, we are literally forced to use classrooms. So then the question is, where do we put all those other students whose classrooms we now need for testing?
They can't be interrupted by bells.
Exactly.
And the staffing, honestly, is very difficult as well.
It sounds pretty sterile.
Yeah.
It's as sterile as we can make it. But we're using a lot of staff to proctor, and I don't know what else we would do with those students while their teachers are proctoring.
Any other questions?
I just want to commend, excuse me, the 3 of you on an excellent written report and all your hard work in getting to this state, this location, in terms of preparing your colleagues and the students and their parents. And then I just have one question. What are the consequences if a student is absent on March 3rd and March 17th and does not take the test?
They're showing will be absent.
They are listed as not tested, and that counts against us in test participation.
Okay.
There is a makeup, however.
March 3rd or March 17th, that's
If
it.
they're absent on both, then they don't take the test at all.
Question?
So if you have somebody that's resistant, they could just not show up.
I was going to say, is there an opt-out? Is there an opt-out for the students? Can they opt out of it?
They can opt out of it, but once again, that counts against us in test participation. As soon as we are under 95%, we start to get points taken off our school and district report cards for test participation.
Cookies.
We do plan to provide snacks, yes.
We can do a very inviting breakfast coming in the morning, so.
That's the win.
Right. The win is to provide food first thing in the morning and encourage that the students approach this on a
Yes.
And I do have to say, our students in the Oshkosh Area School District are wonderful. They really understand the importance of performing well. They do a great job. I have never been disappointed at whatever level I've been at. with our students and how they participate and perform in those testing situations. They just do a great job. So I'm not worried.
How is this being perceived in the schools?
Yeah, so for freshmen, you have 2 different testing dates, is that correct? So freshman twice, sophomore twice, junior twice, so total.
Juniors once.
Well, juniors
Juniors 2 days.
Back to back. Yeah.
Right, okay. And yeah, I, as a freshman, I went to a couple of ACT things, but you think that giddy freshmen would be fine, like those 2 days? Especially with that repetition with taking this ACT, you think that they'd be fine just sitting there? I don't know. It's just they're very energetic. So
I think that at the junior grade level, they have their wits about them enough to be mature about it and realize that this is a heck of a lot better way to take the ACT than having to drive to either UWO or Fond du Lac, paying whatever it is yourself on a Saturday morning and doing it.
Right.
I think they understand that this is helping them not only by convenience, but in the long run. I mean, you've got your ACT out of the way, and that's really nice. I mean, it'd be great if we started this last year.
Yeah, it is one of those that I would certainly encourage, that as difficult as it is, and I think your reflection on students' vision of seeing this is a real advantage, saves their parents money, all those things, but saves the stress of what did you do the night before, Friday night after a game, taking the test and driving somewhere to take it. But I think our approaching this positively with our students, with our wonderful staff at each of our high schools, with the key leadership we have in all 3 of our leaders here tonight, talking this up positively is we can just simply approach it from the standpoint that there are no choices about it. We're going to make the best with it, and this in the long run has some real pluses to it for students. Yes, it is disruptive, it is incredibly prescriptive, but it is something that is meaningful for students, but is also essential in this new ever increasing evaluation of school districts that is taking place in the state of Wisconsin.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
And we will look for the resolution next week. Oh, the 17th, okay. All right, is there a request for future agenda items?
We had a very fine report recently on the implementation or distribution of the Chromebooks. And I would like us to have a board report relative to the implementation of Infinite Campus to include input from parents, students, and teachers.
Good idea. And we don't need a second for the workshop, so if all are agreed.
Yes. We'll target either first meeting in January or first meeting in February for that, depending upon what we can pull together.
Other items for the agenda? All right, seeing none, announcements? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Ito?
Aye.
Liza?
Aye.
Garner? Herzog?
Aye.
Parker? Wagner?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carried. We're adjourned.